All right, chapter 16, On the Road of Popper's Penguins. And it starts on page 107 and goes to page 114. All right, here we go. Chapter 16, On the Road. During the next day, there was much to be done at 432 Proudfoot Avenue. There were new clothes to buy for all of them, and the old ones had to be packed away in mothballs. Then Mrs. Popper had to scrub and polish and straighten the whole place, for she was much too good a housekeeper to leave anything at sixes and sevens while the Poppers were away. Mr. Greenbaum had sent them their first week's pay in advance. The first thing they did was pay off the man who installed the freezing plant in the basement. He had been getting rather uneasy about his money. After all, without him, they would have never been able to train the penguins. Next, they sent a check to the company who had been shipping the fresh fish all the way from the coast. At last it was done, and Mr. Popper turned the key to the door of the little house. They were a little late in arriving at the railway station on account of the argument with the traffic policeman. The argument was on account of the accident of the 2 taxicabs. With 4 Poppers and 12 penguins, not to mention the 8 suitcases and a pail of water with fresh live fish for the penguins' lunch. Mr. Popper found all that they could fit is not in one cab, so they had to take a second one. Each of the taxi drivers was eager to be the first one to get to the station and surprise the people there by opening the door of their cab and letting out 6 penguins. So they raced each other all the way, and in the last block they tried to pass each other, and one of the fenders got torn off. The traffic officer naturally got very much annoyed. The train was about to pull in the station when they arrived. Even with both taxi drivers helping them through the gate and over the brass rails into the rear observation platform, they barely made it. The penguins were gasping. It had been decided that Mr. Popper should ride in the baggage car with the penguins and keep them from getting nervous, while Mr. Popper and the children should ride in one of the Pullmans. Mrs. Popper should ride with the children, sorry. Because of getting on the observation end at the train, Mr. Popper had to take the birds through the whole length of the train. It was easy enough to get them through the club car, even with the pail of fish to carry. But in the sleeping cars, however, there was the porter who was already making up some of the berths. There was trouble. The porter's ladders offered way too much temptation to the penguins. There were a dozen happy forks from a dozen beaks. Poppers performing penguins, completely forgetting their discipline, fought to climb the ladders and to get up into the upper berths. Poor Mr. Popper. One old lady screamed that she was going to get off the train, whether it was going 90 miles or not. A gentleman wearing a clergyman's collar suggested opening a window so that the penguins could jump out. 2 porters tried to shoo the birds out of the berths. Finally, the conductor and the brakeman with a lantern came to the rescue. It was quite a while before Mr. Popper got his pets safely into the baggage car. Mrs. Popper worried a little. And Bill missed 10 weeks of school while they were on the road, though the children did not seem to mind. And you must remember, my love, said Mr. Popper, who had never, ever been out of Stillwater, in spite of his dreams and dreams of distant countries, that travel is very broadening. Mr. Popper said. From the start, the penguins were a very righteous success. Even their opening performance in Seattle went off without a hitch, probably because they had already rehearsed on a real stage. It was there that the penguins added a little novelty number of their own to the program. They were the first thing on the bill. When they finished their regular act, the audience went wild. They clapped and stomped and roared for more of Popper's performing penguins. Janie and Bill helped their father herd the penguins off the stage so that the next act could go on. The next act was a tightrope walker named Monsieur Duval. The trouble was that Instead of watching him from the wings, which they should have done, the penguins got interested and walked out on the stage to watch him more closely. Unfortunately, at the moment, Monsieur Duval was doing a very difficult dance on the overhead wire, on the wire overhead. The audience, of course, had thought that the penguins were all through and were very much pleased to see them return and line up with their backs to the audience and look up at Monsieur Duval dancing so carefully on the wire high above them. This made everyone laugh so hard that Monsieur Duval lost his balance. "Ork!" said the penguins, waddling hurriedly in order not to be under him when he fell. Cleverly recovering his balance, Monsieur Duval caught the wire by the inside of his elbow and saved himself. He was very angry when he saw the pauper performing penguins opening wide their 12 red beaks as if they were laughing at him. "Go away, you stupid things," he heard them say in French. "Ork," said the penguins, pretending not to understand and making remarks to each other in penguin language about Monsieur Duval. And whenever they appeared, the more they interfered with the other acts on the program, the better the audiences liked them. That was chapter 16. Thank you.